of having sex with somebody below age. I think government should embark on a very serious operation and have these people arrested and taken to court. Even the people who help them, the mothers of these people who call these people for engagements to give them money, should be taken to courts of law, and they should be reprimanded for what they've done, because it's a very big crime. Number two, we should talk about reproductive justice and the affordable contraceptives to these girls. If we can have these people make decisions on when and how and which one contraceptive they want to take, so that we can avoid these things to continue, at least let's have that. I think we have a problem with our health system where somebody goes to get contraceptives and they'll be asked, when did you start? Why are you even doing this? But of course, these things are going to happen. These people are going to find themselves in such type of scenarios. So give them those type of contraceptives and at least reduce the number of things that happen. And then I think, sorry, and then about, it distracted me a bit. I'll have comprehensive sex education, tell these girls, because you see, they do not have the much needed information, and they get it from these men. Tell them what exactly it means to have sex, the consequences of doing that, and let them be in the know, not to learn from people who want to get what they want to get from them.
Thank you very much. Make it so dangerous for anyone to even dream of having sex with a young girl. We have another Matembe in this house. I remember when she advocated for castration of those who defile. So we are going to have our last session of questions. Questions from the audience. I wanted to tell you a small story. I'll keep it short. The two panelists here reminded me of that story. One said we should have education from the smallest unit. We should start from the smallest unit, which is the family. And when he said that, I remembered that during the COVID lockdown, I brought a teacher for my children for homeschooling. And I was in the kitchen, and the teacher said, the father buys food, the mother cooks food. And my 5-year-old son said, but mommy is the one who buys food. And the lady told my son, said, no, dad is the one who gives mommy money. You know, I was shocked. The confusion that left in my son's head. So someone complimented and said, our educational stereotypes, because they're important. Children are very, very impressionable, and more in school than at home. So my son has never understood how I get money from their father to pay, or whether that's true or not. Yes, gender? We still have the same rules. Each university asks one question. You guys can decide that who asked earlier doesn't ask now. Yes, the lady is right. So I'm going to start with this university here.
Yes, I think they have started. Do we go with them first then here?
Yes, Uganda Martyrs University.
Okay.
And the lady is the one asking this time.
Oh,
yeah.
This is the gender.
So, 45 seconds.
My name is Namudu Sylvia Chisache from Uganda Martyrs University in Nkozi. So I believe my question goes to Keiyuba University. I mean Kampala International University. Women and men are naturally endowed differently. So do you think we have some natural barriers to gender equality, and how can they be combated? Thank you.
Thank you for being straight to the point.
Okay, I'll pass it here, and I also request that later, gender, we want to empower them. She'll do the job of passing around.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. My name is Praisen Atinguze from Kabale University, and my question goes to our lady from Uganda Martyrs University. Yes, she talked about the 1.5 that is added to girls at the end of senior 6, and she says it is meant to empower women. What are we talking about? If I'm not mistaken, we're talking about equality, right? And equality in a layman's understanding means a state of being equal in maybe status, rights, opportunities, and all that. So why don't, if we really want equality, why don't we be equal, other than letting others be on another on another level compared to the others? Because if we really want to be equal, let the boys as well be given the 1.5, or it is scrapped off for both of us. Thank you.
I don't know what happened to us. Did you say your name? Maybe I missed it. Okay, let's continue. I want consensus at the universities on who will represent you.
All right, thank you so much. My name is Amanya Abdu, and I'm from Nkumba University. All right, my question goes to Titus. First of all, I would like him to define what mindset change is and what he actually means by that. And then secondly, to the panelists altogether, at what point do we say that we have attained gender equality? Because you did not set for us the metric. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mugisha Eko, Cavendish University. At the beginning of your presentation, Ogutu, Titus, son of Ogutu, that was a rather very good presentation, but I had an issue. You mentioned, quote unquote, that the Bible is one of the causes of stereotypes and gender inequality. I don't know which information you have, but according to the Bible, and in Genesis 5, chapter 5, he says that he created man and woman, and he created them in his own image. And in various chapters, we see that actually women are commended for their good work that they have done, not to mention Phoebe, Eunice, Mary herself. So on what basis would you make such an outrageous remark, which I actually find very naive? Thank you.
I don't know if naive is accepted language, but
my question is addressed to the entire panel. So looking beyond representation and numbers, and if we are to look at the gendered aspect of violence in Uganda, how can we say that, how far has gender equality come? If we are to look at the cases of defilement, rape, gender-based violence, domestic violence, and the extent to which they are prosecuted in the courts of law. To what extent, in those terms, have we achieved gender equality in this country? Thank you.
My name is Melody Arindaje. I am a pharmacy student. I have, of course, the conversation has really confused me when I think the first speaker came and defined equality and talked about equal conditions, and then the conversation went on to herald 1.5. I really want to understand the equality there, but one, I think it's her who asked the question and said that, is that really equality? But then I want to ask a question to all the panelists. Should we go for equality and forget merit? Because when we look at some of the women that we are heralding have gone up, I said I'm a pharmacist, and so I'll speak from the Ministry of Health. All the top officials, the minister, the permanent secretary, minister of state are women. Has the corruption decreased? Our prime minister, our vice president, I mean, we have so many great women at the top. What has that equality done for us? Should we close our eyes to the benefits of merit and just say, Bambi, they are women? Is equality a question of sympathy or merit? I would want that to come out clearly. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Narada Tracy, KIU University, and I'm a law student. So my question goes to the panelists that gave education as a solution to some of the issues that we have concerning gender imbalance. Is it really the solution? Because we see that despite different men being educated, we see that there's still these inequalities or these mindsets that they have towards women. And we also see that despite the fact that certain women are educated, they still see men in a certain way. For example, we see so many of us girls still think that we can't maybe do certain jobs or be in particular places, or it's the man to provide for me, it's the man to do all these things. So is education really the solution? Or Okay, something of a sort. Thank you.
Are the questions done?
Well, thank you. I'm by the name of Sempewa Paul from Busitema University, doing Bachelor of Science in Computer Engineering. And I will applaud the panelists for saying out the solutions. As I heard some saying sensitization, and is it Douglas? You mentioned the mindset. Well, and my question is, it's going to all the panelists. It is, if you have the opportunity to advise the government, would you go on to advise the government to allocate the money that was mentioned earlier that it allocated for mindset? Would you advise the government to do so? And if so, how best would you advise it? Would you go further to advise the government to best use, to put that money allocated to the best use such that gender balance, gender equality can be attained? Thank you.
Okay, if we are done with the questions from the audience.
Thank you so much. I'm Mikai Maureen from Uganda Pentecostal University. My concern is, as far as Uganda is concerned, I think the right and empowering is to everyone. And now my question is, how best can we zero down the song of empowering women? I think women are already empowered. So how can we zero it down?
Yeah, thank you so much. My name is Daniel Musinguzi Yakiro. My question to the panelists today is simply this. Every time we have a discussion on equality, it seems to boil down to political participation. And going by our current statistics, of course, numbers wouldn't lie, and we seem to have a larger number of women involved in politics. However, I would like to ask a question specifically. When you zero down to political participation, what you're doing is taking just a tiny substrata of the demographic and focusing on that. But what is the social and economic impact at household level of gender equality or its lack thereof? Do we actually have equality or the illusion of it? Are we empowering women if we do not empower them economically?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for letting me steal the opportunity. Mine is just a comment. I think this debate should have started from the foundation of gender. So we all understand that there's a distinction between sex and gender. So sex tends to inform gender. Sex is biological. Gender is a social construct. So upon what stage do we choose to say that gender equality is achieved? That's a very good question. But that question needs to be informed by the fact that gender is a social construct. So whenever you talk about solutions such as education, questions such as let's have strict laws, the way how we teach our girls, the way how we teach our boys to grow up is as a result of society. So I think that this discussion also ought to have had the gender influences that come with gender equality. We can't seem to look at this debate from a perspective that does not include aspects of how we train our people to grow. So I think that that's an aspect that was really, really important in this debate, starting from the foundations, knowing what our professors such as Tamale have said in as regards reconstructing society and its gender implications.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think we are done with that side. Please bring back the microphone for the panelists to respond to the questions, and you'll have a minute each to respond to whatever questions that have been. Thank you very much. I'll start from here.
Well, there are a couple of questions. If time catches me and I've not answered your question, you forgive me. Let me start with the first one. At what point do we say that we have attained gender equality? There is a metric that they use, the Gender Inequality Index. Iceland is one of the countries that is the best country in terms of gender equality. And the metric they used is they have a women representation of 40% in parliament. They have not yet attained gender equality, but they're considered the best. So at what point as Uganda are we going to say that we have attained gender equality? As in my submission, I said we have made tremendous steps. We have the legal framework in place. Now, all we have to do is, the biggest issue at hand is the matter of mindset. Once that is fixed, then now the other metric of gender inequality, whereby women can therefore have the representation, women can therefore go ahead and have the opportunities of education, but also do not forget that in attaining gender equality, we should also put in mind the boy child, because we're looking at equal access to rights and opportunities of both genders. So at a particular point where Uganda can say we've attained gender equality is where we have equal representation, equal opportunities, which we haven't yet reached there. Two, to what?
No. Rachael?
Thank you so much. So a question arose about the 1.5 point, and in my submission, I told you the concept of gender equality has been pushed in inequalities toward women, especially here in Uganda. So that's why we see that 1.5 given to the girl gender and actually not given to the boys, because the inequality has been pushed more to the girl gender. So hope I've answered you by that. Then the next question was, at what point have we attained gender equality? My stand was we haven't attained the gender equality that we actually need. However, there are solutions and steps that have been taken, different steps that have been taken by the law that have helped this aspect of gender equality to be achieved. Yeah.
Yes, Titus?
Yes, thank you very much. I'll peruse through these questions very fast. First, the gender equality matrix, I stated it very clearly in my submission. Unless otherwise, I'll just repeat it. It was the GII, the Gender Inequality Index. Two, the 1.5 wasn't introduced for equity, it was introduced for equality. Ladies and gentlemen, let us depreciate gender equality and gender equity. Moving forward, when you want to compare the context of equality and merit, most of the women in those high positions have attained those positions via merit. And some of the things hindering this is also how, as the case, the challenges we face. Poor quality of education is very key when some of the men out there are still being perpetrators. Then also mindset money. Mindset money, we should trust the process, and I'm very sure they will deliver. And also the part of empowerment. Empowerment is done to bring us to a point of gender equality, not gender equity. Let us depreciate equality and equity. I remain Ngabirano Titus. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Oscar?
Thank you so much. First of all, I would like to let you know that Team Kabale University still argues for sustainability and a feasible plan that will last for long, that is addressing gender stereotypes. So equality versus merit is actually sympathy. Those people attained those positions out of sympathy, because we argue that affirmative action is actually sympathizing. That's why we argue that we address the mindset and we let all people compete favorably, and society can believe in the girls too. We also gave you solutions to how education can be a solution. We said we should put policies, educational reforms, and curricular activities that actually encourage gender studies from the lowest level. We talked about, somebody asked about gender being defined as only sex. I think that was not true. We defined gender, I even referred to the LGBTQ and the PWDs. I hope that gets clear. As I conclude, let us address mindset change. Let us empower girls from the grassroots, and let us tell the society that people can do the same at all times. Thank you.
Thank you so much. My sister there mentioned something about the male and the female. There's nothing so special about us, probably the biological factor of one being a man or woman. But in reality, we are all equal and we are entitled to equal opportunities. Hope you understood my words. I also want to apologize to my brother. I'm sorry for hurting your feelings. But the reason why I mentioned that point was because of my brother Douglas. You realize one of the reasons why the domestic relations bill hasn't been successful up to now is because of religion. That is because of the conflict between the Sharia law and the principles that the Christians hold. Because the Christians say marrying more than one woman is infringing on my dignity and integrity. However, the Muslims say that you're dealing with a spiritual arrangement, if we are to say, or a godly arrangement that Christians cannot understand. And of course, the Muslims also accuse the Christians that, look, you preach Christians, just as I finish, I want to be clear, that you preach Christian values, however, we see you having official wives and unofficial wives. If I had enough time, I would have explained you to that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I think most of the things have been responded to, but about the question of whether education is really the solution, we did not mention that there is a silver bullet or anything alone is that one thing to solve the problem. That's why everybody was mentioning what they think, and I think we've mentioned so many things. If somebody has gone to school and probably they think they are still inferior, then maybe like the mindset, and then they talked about those things. Then somebody said that we zeroed the debate to participation. I think politics is a very big issue. It influences every other aspect of life, the policies that people make. So we have to involve women in making decisions and the policies that affect them. You cannot leave the monkeys to decide issues of the forest. The men are usually indifferent when it comes to this, so I think when we include ladies in participation and policy making, I think we can get to where we want to be. And then lastly, about the equality or the 1.5, I beg we know when it is reparation and when we are trying to disadvantage the men against the women.
Okay, thank you very much. Another round of applause for our panelists. You have all done very incredibly well, but that is not my job. That is not for me to say. And so it's time for the people that have the mandate to say that. You are welcome, sir. We await the verdict.
Now, a round of applause for these gentlemen and lady. There is already a gender issue here. So, lady and gentleman. And I come back to the same issues because I know they are key for you. Take them away, be my representative wherever you go, and talk about these things. Because if you gave me a chance, and I could even ask all of you, what is the basis of your conviction to start debating this topic? Because I wanted to see each one, every one of you, have a basis of their understanding. Because that's how social discourse proceeds. It's not best, if we are to call this a national debate, then it must underpin those issues. Who do you think a woman is to you? And what do you believe? Then on the basis of that, you start discussing. I keep saying this and people just, you are wasting time coming. Stop disturbing us. For us, we are in the game. And I'm not surprised that there are women at parliament, no impact. There are women in what? Just going around. But I have just been telling my colleague here that maybe let's give chance. Who knows? Something could come out. You never know. that on the basis of things that undermine women, who knows? A woman in parliament who's paid the salary could uplift their daughter, and their daughter could now begin participating usefully. Who knows? And so for me, when I was listening to you, I wanted to hear you talk about economic participation of women. I wanted to hear you talk about decision-making and quality decision-making. I wanted to hear you talking about valuing different behaviors and aspirations and needs equally between women and men. But that had to be based on the foundation of your thought process. It's called school of thought. So as future debaters, I challenge you, what is your school of thought? Because this is the problem I find. Like the people who are saying mindset change, I just wonder, what is a school of thought? Is it materialism or is it foundationalism? Because look, we have schools, we have families, and if you have to impact for posterity, you must utilize those institutions to change the status of men, women, and girls. If you don't, you risk providing money for political disorientations. You might say, oh, you have come with a pot belly and you are walking around, and then you are telling me to be slim? Are you serious? That you need to eat healthy? Is it serious? So you must deal with the fundamentals. And that's why do these people have a school of thought, or they are just affected by materialism? And it doesn't matter whether you are bright, dull, or what. This is why I advocate, and I have been advocating, John knows this, that it is important to introduce philosophy, and I mean philosophy, to primary school kids and secondary school kids, so that we can see this brightness. You are very bright. Come out in its originality. Because otherwise, you see, you'll find, let me use this, someone used it, but I used it in good faith. Useful idiots. By saying useful idiots, I'm saying very bright, smart people being deployed to peddle propaganda. Why? Because they do not have fundamentals in terms of school of thought and what they believe their one being should represent. I am sorry. I'm sorry to... So I am going to challenge you. What is your worldview? What is your worldview, including you? Before you debate anything, establish your worldview, what you are willing to die for, that even when you change a bit, you don't change fundamentally. That does not affect your flexibility. And that even when you flex, the fundamentals remain the same. I challenge you. You are young people. You are founding this country. This is why I keep calling you back to the Pan-African, the long-sung song of African women, for example, here, who are not properly founded. Look, your story was short, but very important. Look at the teacher. The teacher saying, oh, mommy, if daddy buys, gives money to mommy. See this distortion. Total distortion. And so, equality, is it about numbers or is it about equal opportunities? You have numbers. Patriarchal, matriarchal, what are you talking about? Power with men, that doesn't matter, by the way. It doesn't matter. But how do they use this power is what is important. It's what the young child should know from the beginning. That it doesn't mean if you have power, you use it against it. That's what I wanted to hear from you. And finally, and this is where we're going, the young people, why I criticize, why I will, and I will always criticize this money for mindset change. Very archaic, very backward. If you have a political philosophy means politics of ideology, then social programming is part and parcel of that ideology. What does that mean? That you have components of philosophy, of politicking, that impact education, that impact society worldview, that impact arts and culture, that impact the politics of the time, etc., etc. Meaning, the politics of resource allocation also go to fundamentally underpinning those issues that found society. And that's what we call, to some extent, social programming. I can understand you. Good news. That when you have a pandemic, even a social pandemic, like corruption, battering of women, undermining of women, maybe that's when an intervention is needed. So if you are going out once to tell people that, wait a minute, if this pandemic is not contained, we are going to die, I allow that money for mindset change be deployed, but not as a matter of ideology. I thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you very much. Yes, Mr. Chanwat, you have the floor.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Great. What a debate. I must say you people have equally done a good job comparing the discussion of the morning session and this one here. I must say that this debate would have been better if there was a balance in gender, 3 and 3 on the other end. We would have sort of a match in terms of content that will be raised. One of the key things that I've noticed is that your focus was more on the equality element. There is what women are advocating for lately, which is equity. How many of you have learnt of the women's movement, the Ugandan one? Do you know it? Yeah? You left it out? So those are the foundations of women equality and the demand thereon. We know the likes of the Maria Matembe, the likes of the Winnie Byanyima. They fought for this. They put in so much effort. So it would be very important to take note of the progress that we've made compared to what we have now. I've been blessed to join a team of experts to develop a strategy for one of the leading women organizations here, and they're changing the strategy. They're looking at equity rather than equality. Equality is just verbose for advocacy and all that. We want equality, we want to be equal, we want this. But there is what we call equity. Equity in that it goes beyond the equality. You hear me? So those are the key things you need to look at to see that at least, whereas we are looking at equality, which is enshrined in some of our laws, they are merely, you know, like Dr. Deus says, well, give them a chance, let it be there. But the women are doing more. The women are looking for equity. So for these people here, the group of the organization, they're looking at something different from what the women organizations are doing. What?
You haven't fallen asleep. I was not expecting. You can use this microphone.
Good afternoon once again. Good afternoon, panelists. I just wanted to ask 2 questions to 2 of you. Busitema, who was your founding vice chancellor? Who? Thank you. Kabale, who was your founding vice chancellor? Did you hear that? Thank you. I just wanted you to know that those 2 universities were founded by women.
Thank you for the reminder, Jaja. For some of us, it wasn't a reminder. It was, we were just hearing it for the first time. Our final judge who will deliver the verdict is here. Mr. Osheno, you're welcome.
Thank you very, very much. I'm deliberately putting on my jacket because it was supposed to be point number 1. I wanted to ask, but I know we are running out of time. So I deliberately put on a bow tie today to appear different, to seek attention, to be smart, to honor the occasion. But most importantly, I knew that if I were going to be a panel of, say, arguably 3, it's a bit crowded, I will sharply attract a sense of focus from an emergent person who arrives in. Just a trick. You got it, guys? So while Dr. Kamunyu gives the detail, like the teacher, I'm giving you the beef of the trick. I think one of the finalists in the morning said they lost out an opportunity in meeting with us. The first presentation I talked about part of my background, that I was a chairperson of a debating club in my primary school, and I was chairperson in P6. Now, that's a bit of a trumpet blown, but to do so at primary 6 showed I had something to give. So guys, you really have to make sure that, one, you have something to give, be convinced you have something to give, and definitely give the something that you have. So we were saying as judges that possibly this time around, this panel was slightly a little bit lackluster, and we're wondering, what is it? And we thought, well, generally, you are yourselves, you cannot be anybody else. But you basically need to put a little bit of energy. But number 2, I think Mama has started with what was going to be my last point, and that was the point about leadership. And for Busitema, I was just going to hail you that Aunt Mary Okwakol was actually one of the 2 most influential women leaders at UPC Women's Desk in the early 80s in the last UPC administration. Now, these were women influencing, directing, and pushing policies and programs away from the structural representation. But this is women getting involved and participating and translating. And that's why it's extremely important that, yes, we must educate women, we must involve women. And the legitimate question, which really must have been part of the debate, is that what are the women who are in position doing to push for all other women in society, structural, but qualitatively ensuring that really what a woman really, really needs, including girl child, is a matter of policy. And so I thought that we did not you guys did not address the leadership gap. The fact that this is a structural issue. The fact that you guys were referring to policy and basically listing it down there. I know 1 or 2 of you guys challenged it, but yes, how do we translate this into practical realities that go? I think 1 or 2 of you guys talk about it. The maternal deaths, these deaths in hospitals, women struggling to give birth. I know some of you guys gave the obvious things about access to seasonal pads and things like that. Not in passing. The realities who talked about, some of you guys talked about Chaco, which is going to be in my column on Sunday. The women struggling to basically access to water education. The holistic thing, the thing that, well, at the end of the day, when those watching us away look, and our mothers and sisters and aunties are saying that, yes, the guys debating the future leaders have really got us at heart. And if we gave them the opportunity the next 5 years, as we promised in Parliament, they're actually going to be the guys who are going to be the fundamental policy changes. So quickly, I would wrap up in this way. As I said earlier, you need to make sure that while you're debating, you have the depth, the evidence, the research. Surprisingly, none of you guys mentioned that UPC, my party, has produced 2 women leaders. Cecilia Gual between 1990 and 1996 was effectively the president of Uganda People's Congress. Now, that was the only then leading political party. I'm not making political points, but I'm just trying to say, you need to research these things because you need to put it on top. Mama Miriam was president of Uganda People's Congress. Uganda People's Congress, one of the independence founding parties in Africa. So that's a powerful thing that Ugandans, you need to clap for it, you know. So you missed that. so is it about progress? No, it's about women representation. Is it qualitative? It is. Even up to now, I'm actually challenging some of the leaders inside UPC on the basis of some of whatever challenges are taking place. What did you do when Mama was president and you're a member of the cabinet? I happen to have been a young member of that cabinet at the time. So these are the things. So we need to make sure that you guys don't only debate, you debate, go get jobs, change lives, change your lives, change communities, and we change this nation, we change the continent of Africa, and definitely we change the lives of the girl child. Critical thinking, I totally concur. You guys did attempt as a group, and in fact has been very difficult as I give the final results. Titus, yes, you happen to refer Titus Busitema to Auntie Mary and indeed Makerere, that 10 of the 10, they're 2 women. Of the 7, there are 2 women. You are going into the details. Those are the things, but qualitatively, yes, what really are the realities on the ground? What about the academic and teaching staff? What about the cooks? You know, what are then? Those are the kind of things that we expect you to be able to have referred to. But generally, we believe that you did generally a good work, and if we look back to where it's an improvement, just simply avoid generalization. Somebody was talking about education and was saying that education versus gender and men and violence, and no, this is not a chat down the river. This is a national students' debate, and it's actually a national competition, and it's one which must, as I said again, be based on evidence. Overall, well done, guys, and as I said, my remaining task is to say that you were exercising somewhere, somehow, 2 people will have to emerge out of this group to go and present the youth interest in the next session. And those 2 happen to be, congratulations to everybody. But by the way, just another 30 seconds. Whereas the other group was a very, very tough, powerful group, so we thought. Here, for me, as a judge, with the exception of maybe a particular individual, I could easily have said, like we're saying, all of us, we wish we could take you guys all to the next round. But just happens to be one person, one or 2 persons have got to go. So no, you've been generally good, but up your tempo. Your tempo is less than where the other guys were, but you're generally a fantastic lot of guys. So just to say that the 2 guys who happened to go to the next round, somehow, coincidentally, it was not my choice in that way, I'm wrapping, is Titus and Titus. Simon, sorry, someone, just a quick thing. When I was talking about my tie, Garang was casual smart, yeah? Garang was casual smart, fantastic. Simon, you're casual, slightly below the expectations for a national debate. But you're very smart for a casual Sunday or afternoon somewhere. But for a debate, just a note to take, because you're a fantastic debater. But just to say that that's a feedback you need to have. As in all is good play. Well done, and congratulations once again.
Thank you very much. But I thought you talked about catching the eye. I thought that casualness.
No, it does.
Okay.
But depends on the idea.
So before you go, we want the overall winner and the.
Oh, we want it.
Yes.
Oh, okay. The overall winner here is, or indeed, Titus Ogutu.
Okay. That's.
The other Titus was Ngabirano.
Yes. Thank you very much. Congratulations to the 2 Tituses that we had here. And yes, the panel was a very good panel. They said the content was good, but the tempo was less than what we had seen earlier. I'm going to invite either the doctor or Damian to tell us about lunch, and then we will come back for our next session this afternoon. Thank you very much, everyone. You have been a wonderful audience. Thank you for staying with us.
Thank you very much, our moderator, Agatha and Jenna, that have helped us. Now, prize